Alright, let's jump right in. People want to see where establishment really screwed up. Here it is. I'll explain it to you. It's in the equations of stellar structure. Alright, this is going to get pretty verbose, so hang in there. In forming the stellar structure equations, exploiting the assumed spherical symmetry, one considers the matter density, temperature, and total pressure, matter plus radiation, the luminosity and energy generation per unit mass, in a spherical shell of thickness at a distance from the center of the star. The star is assumed to be in local thermodynamic equilibrium, so the temperature is identical for matter and photons. This is where they messed up. This is probably the biggest mistake in all of star science, right here, right next to other assumptions. Notice assumed. They assume a lot of things to be true, and all these equations that you're going to see from then on down, it's all based off of a false assumption. Check it out. Local thermodynamic equilibrium. Keep that in mind. That's what they think the sun is. Alright, here we go. Local and global equilibrium. It is useful to distinguish between global and local thermodynamic equilibrium. In thermodynamics, exchanges within a system and between the system and the outside are controlled by intensive parameters. As an example, temperature controls heat exchanges. Global thermodynamic equilibrium, or GTE, means that those intensive parameters are homogeneous, meaning they are the same throughout the whole system, while local thermodynamic equilibrium, LTE, means that those intensive parameters are varying in space and time, but are varying so slowly that for any point one can assume thermodynamic equilibrium in some neighborhood about that point. Again, assume thermodynamic equilibrium. That's what they did. Instead of realizing that the sun is radiating its heat away, they assumed it's in thermodynamic equilibrium, when clearly it is not in thermodynamic equilibrium with its environment. It is radiating its heat away. So the fact that they said it's in local thermodynamic equilibrium, or LTE, right off the bat completely destroys any argument they have concerning the evolution of the star. According to the establishment, LTE means the sun is a perpetual energy machine. In stellar metamorphosis, it is not a perpetual energy machine. It will cool and die, radiating its heat and flaring its heat, or flaring its matter away, and the solar wind will continue exiting the star, and it will lose mass by significant amounts, becoming what's called an orange dwarf. This is Epsilon Eridani. The sun's next stage of evolution is to become an orange dwarf star. It will lose a significant amount of mass as it cools and dies, and it will dim considerably. Here is a graphical representation of the stars and the older stars in front of them, called planets by the establishment. The older stars are the little black dots, which have cooled considerably and shrunk to where they don't radiate their mass, and they're much denser than these younger stars. This is really cool. This is an analog of the sun up here, and that little dot up there is Jupiter. This is an analog of the sun. So basically what happens is after the star expands to its fullest extent, it starts contracting and cooling. And it does this for many billions of years as it loses mass to solar wind, flaring, and radiation loss. Eventually, it cools and dies to the point to where it becomes what's called a red dwarf, which then becomes a brown dwarf, and obviously a late stage brown dwarf or blue dwarf like Uranus or Neptune, Jupiter or Saturn. And then over even many more billions of years, it eventually solidifies and leaves its leftover oceans on top of the star, and the internal components of the star are still hot, full of magma and all that stuff. because the star had internalized all of its heat. In other words, establishment science has this object expanding to a star that would encompass this entire field of view, which is really, really, really weird. Why should this thing expand to bigger than all these stars put together? I have no idea. This object is going to shrink and cool, just like all the others in the entire galaxy. This is covered by the theory I'm drawing up. If those people who want to help out with this theory, go right on, jump right in. I don't bite, I don't ridicule like a lot of the people in online forums do, and I will support your decision just as long as you keep this main hypothesis intact, that the star cools and dies and becomes the little thing that doesn't shine anymore called planet. Alright.